you do, break your arm?
I did. I was mountain biking with my daughter and fell off.
That's what you get for trying to keep
Your head is intact, however, right?
We voted to eliminate.
Let's hope so.
Above her went up a little bit.
Good.
And what we're saying is 4 runs is not enough. So instead of 6, we went from 6 down to 4, and now we're 4 back up to 2.
Sitting in the car, wolfing down Chick-fil-A. That's the last time I've been there. Well, I
Eating
lost
on
half
the
an
run.
hour, and it was like 35 minutes because they ran out of chicken. They had to go kill some more. Apparently, back. I don't know. It was ridiculous.
Kill and process, huh?
It was not a good situation. They were out of control. This doesn't feel stable. So I have my perennial problem.
Oh, making that stand up?
No, well that. But I can't move it from OneDrive to the PDF. What is wrong with me? This is impossible.
Oh, that works. Better.
We'll see. But do you know how to get it over to here? I can't get it over here. It's not there. Okay, so it's on my OneDrive, and that's the way I looked at it, okay?
You've saved it to your local line?
No, what do I have to do? Just talk to me. Hold on, I hate this thing.
Pull it into the,
What do I do? No.
There's the technology problem, and then there's the stand.
The flip problem, yeah. Sorry to take up your time with that.
Mine's on the
See, what's that? I'll fake it. Okay. So much.
Look at it tomorrow, or before the next meeting, half an hour ahead of time, we'll figure it
This
out.
happens every single time. Oh, it's some kind of trick I can't figure out.
okay, guys. We ready? Good evening and welcome to the July 26, 2022 regular meeting of the Charter Township Meridian Township Board. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Lemaster, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Jackson,
Here.
Clerk Guthrie,
Here.
Treasurer DeShane,
Here,
Trustee Hendrickson,
Here.
Trustee Wilson,
Here.
Trustee Sundlin, Trustee Wazinski. Trustee Sundlin and Wazinski are absent, all others present.
Thank you. On tonight's agenda, we have quite a few presentations. The first will be a tribute to Betsy Hull, who is the lead librarian, I presume, at the Okemos Library. We'll hear first from Scott Dimstra, who is the executive director of the cattle system.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Thank you for the nice introduction. And it's bittersweet that I'm here on to bid adieu to Betsy Hull. Betsy has been a phenomenal head librarian for the Okemos Library. If I know she is very self-deprecating in some ways and talks about how when she leads a story time, the kids end up crying. But I know you do such a good job. I've heard from the parents that they truly love her baby story times. And if they're crying, it's tears of joy that they're crying. And part of it is because of the humor that Betsy brings as well, too. She is such an approachable person, such a kind person. She has seen so many changes at the Okemos Library. She guided us through the renovation that occurred in late 2013 and 2014. She has moved the Okemos Library into a well-used, well-loved library. And that well-used and well-loved points back to her staff. Her staff, they are phenomenal. But in order to have phenomenal staff, you have to have a phenomenal leader. And that's what Betsy Hull has done. But we all work towards that day till that we can retire and take some time off. And so that's why, although we are sad to lose Betsy, we are actually very glad that she can move into retirement, enjoy some more time on the things that she likes to do. But we are very appreciative of the work that she did for cattle, for Meridian Township, and specifically for the Okemos branch. So Betsy, I will bring it up to you.
I have the floor. Well, thank you for inviting me here tonight. I am thankful and grateful for the career that I've had at the Okemos Library for a little more than 12 years. I appreciate the relationship I've had with the township and how the crew has taken care of me in the building. I will miss the people, but I will not miss the problems with the plumbing. My family has had a relationship here in Meridian Township, either residing in the township or doing business here in the township for more than 40 years. And I expect this won't be the last time that you see me in the township. Again, much appreciated. I am humbled by your kind words and your thoughts. And oh yes, one last thing. Remember to vote August 2.
You are not off the hook yet. We have a little tribute on behalf of the
There's
board.
more.
That's right, there's more. Can't leave yet.
Okay, where do you want me?
Right here, because the photographer's right over there, and she doesn't want to take a picture of me, so you stand right there. There you go. I sit on the Friends of the Okemos Library board, and it is a privilege and an honor to sit on that with you. Your enthusiasm is infectious, and we can tell that you love not only the library, but you love what you do at the library and all of the people who come to the library. And I fell in love with reading at the Okemos Library, so I'm super appreciative of all of your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
And so I hope that that carries through in your absence. All right, enough of that. Tribute on behalf of the board. Whereas Betsy Hall was hired as branch head at Okemos in March 2010 and has faithfully served there for 12 years. And whereas Betsy oversees a staff of 26 people, most of whom are long-term employees thanks to the positive environment created by Betsy. And whereas she has served as UAW unit chair of the Library Heads Group since 2019, and whereas Betsy won the library's prestigious Capital Area District Libraries McConnell Award for customer service in 2020 for her leadership and success in steering one of the largest cattle branches through unprecedented challenges, while finding unique ways to keep community members connected to the library. And whereas while the library was closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Betsy oversaw the creation of thousands of take-and-make kits for young children, plus hundreds of cattle crates with boxed books and prizes for older students. And whereas in 2014, Betsy Hull oversaw the Okemos Library building renovation, which turned this branch into the most visited in the cattle system. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, wishes publicly to recognize, commend, and thank Betsy Hull for invaluable contributions to and impacts on the quality of life in the community. This board is grateful for your outstanding public service and wishes you well in your retirement.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounded like a job evaluation, Scott.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Chief Plogger, who will introduce sponsorship, Police Academy sponsorship candidates.
I got a whole parade for you tonight, board members.
Good.
We'll start with Natalie. Madam Supervisor, board members, I am excited to introduce 3 candidates for sponsorship to the Mid-Michigan Police Academy, which begins August 17th. First one is Natalie Tyndall. Natalie comes from Brooklyn, Michigan. She's an MSU graduate, and she's also a former cadet for us. She was a cadet for almost over a year and a half. Also one of my former students at MSU. And she was brought to us by Officer Christina Scacia. I don't know if you remember Officer of the Year Christy Scacia identified her on a call for service at one of the local businesses where an incident had occurred involving one of Natalie's friends, and Natalie gave such detailed information to the officer. Officer Scacia came back and told us, hey, this is a young lady you want to look at. And we offered her a cadet job, and she took it, and now we're looking to send her to the police academy and bring her on board. So, Officer Tyndall? Or soon to be Officer Tyndall?
I want to thank you guys for this opportunity, and I'm excited to get learning and get ready to serve the community here at Meridian.
Thank you. Brent's next. So next I bring to you Brent Spence. Brent comes to us from Garden City. He's an Army National Guard veteran. He was a medic. He has his Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, and medic license, but we were fortunate that he got wise and decided to come into the law enforcement field. So we have that going for us. Brent also served in the unit. Blaine Anderson is our K-9 officer and served in the same unit as the medic for Blaine's unit. And Brent kind of brought some questions as to what he thought about working for Meridian Township, and Blaine gave a positive outlook on the community and the township, and that is what brought Brent to us. So we're looking to have Brent come and attend the academy and come work for the community as well. Brent.
I want to thank you for the opportunity, sponsoring me through the academy. It's a great deal to me, and I look forward to a long-lasting career with you guys at the Meridian Township. Thank you.
And last but not least, Sarah Hubbard. Sarah Hubbard is also from Macomb, Michigan. She's an MSU graduate as well, also a former student. She's been a cadet for us for a year and a half now as well. Is that about right? And Sarah's an avid bowler, which is one of the pastimes we enjoy at the police department. So we'll get a double bonus with Sarah. But we're excited to have her also come on board and attend the academy. One thing I want to point out to the board is the 2 officers, candidates that we brought forward here last month, and then we went to the physical fitness and agility testing that you were required to do to get into the police academy. And our people excelled. These 5 candidates all excelled. That can't be said for every agency and every candidate that showed up. There were several agency-sponsored candidates that did not pass the test and cannot get into the academy. So they're hitting the ground running and just really putting their best foot forward. So, Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah. Working as a cadet, I got to know the community, and I really like it, and I look forward to working here, so thank you for the opportunity.
Go ahead. Oh, they're going to come around, run.
Sarah. Welcome to Congratulations. Thank you.
There's still time for them. Oh, yeah. You stay with me. Don't talk to the fire chief. Congratulations.
So we're very fortunate Chief Plucker is such a good teacher and influence in recruiting for us. Item 4C has the introduction of a new full-time paramedic firefighter from Chief Hamill.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor, Board. This is Nicholas Irving. Nicholas started his career in Florida and got his EMT training down there and spent about 4 years working before he moved up here to Michigan, lucky for us, in 2021. He was able to get his Firefighter 1 and 2 this past April, and we spent a lot of time talking, and a very intelligent individual that we believe will fit in very well with the department. We look forward to sending him to paramedic school and being a big part of the future of our department. So this is Nicholas.
Chief. Hello everybody, my name is Nicholas. I'm the new probationary firefighter here at Meridian Township Fire Department. I'm very excited to start my career here as a full-time firefighter. As of now, I'm a generational firefighter of 3 generations, So I'm living up to my family's tradition and very happy to do so. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Great to have you, Lisa. Hi.
I hope it doesn't take that long.
Item 4D on our agenda involves a Everbridge presentation by Chief Hamill and Chief Plaga.
Well, Madam Supervisor, thank you again, Board. Happy to be here to talk about emergency notification. So this kind of started with the boil emergency we had, and we did find out some good things about Everbridge, which is the software we use today. But I'm going to go through a little bit of what it does, the history of it, and then how we're going to improve on getting more people to what we call opting in. So emergency notification, it's important for us to be able to give our residents and even internal in the township notifications of emergencies or special things like a boil emergency, car accidents, and things like that. So what is it? It's a software that you put in information, emergency information, and it quickly can send to thousands and thousands of people at a time the message. And the importance of the message is just like when the sirens go off for a tornado, it alerts you to something going on. For example, I'm on the county and Meridian Township. I got the notification today of the accident where the truck rolled over at 127 and 96. So that's an example of what you're getting. That was sent out, I believe, by the county. Basically, it's our goal, just like the sirens, is to keep people safe. How do we notify someone not only of a pending emergency, a current emergency? Chief Plaga, if he has, let's just say, a barricaded gunman at the corner of walk and don't walk, he can actually put a perimeter in an area and send out a mass notification and alert the residents to stay in or stay away and things like that. So it's really robust in what it can do, and the sky's really the limit. So again, it sends a message. Whatever we put, we can create templates. We can target specific groups that we want to, and in a minute I'll go into the groups we are going to target to try to get to opt in. Again, the messages go out very rapidly. Thousands and thousands within minutes can go out. And just to touch on a little bit, we have the most people signed up in the whole county, Meridian Township, with just shy of 8,000. I don't know what the other communities have. I was just told by some of the people who manage it at the county level that we are the highest. And our goal is to hit every taxpayer if we can get them and their family members. And we'll get into how we're going to do that. It's really a simple user interface to use. If I can use it, anybody can use it. But we have key people that will be sending out messages. Chief Plog and his team. I have the ability at my end. We use it every day for messages for our people, for recall, overtime, and emergencies. If we need people to come in, let's say we have a fire and we need more bodies, we do a notification to get people to come in and help. Again, it is a mass notification that hits phones, whether it's a desk phone, whether it's a text message or an email, a cell phone. My understanding is that it can hit Facebook. I don't know how you do that yet, but I'm going to learn. So even social media can be targeted so people are getting these messages. Because not everybody's home, and not everybody has home phones anymore. The cell phones are your home phones, which we're going to get into is why this kind of became a problem. So it's very robust, and to be able to hit every resident the best we can by opting in, it's really going to help us alert and protect our community. So a little bit of history. So the original mass notification we had in the county was in right around 2010. Region 1, which is our emergency management group, paid for it, and it was called Code Red. Code Red got a little hinky and didn't work real well, and they didn't really keep up with their software, so we eliminated that and we went to Nixle. Nixle was kind of free in the beginning, and then we started paying for it to get some more information. The difference between Code Red, Nixle, and Everbridge is Code Red and Nixle, it would target home phones. Those were automatically inputted into the system. With Everbridge, that didn't happen, and I'll explain why in a minute. So we switched to Nixle. There are people that still use Nixle. East Lansing uses Nixle. It can be a little confusing, but it's a system that's free that they can use. And then right around 2017, we went to Everbridge. And now it became even more of an opt-in, so we couldn't move over people's phone numbers. We couldn't move the designated numbers into it from the phone book. There's really no phone book anymore. What can be done, and Ingham County is looking at potentially using Homeland Security money for, is pulling numbers from the 911 center, what they have in their list. Well, there's a cost to it, and that's what they're going to review, because it's not cheap to do this. So that'll be an option. What we want to do here is get people to opt in, and this is a sheet of paper. I've got some copies back there for residents or anybody, exactly what this is, and I'll pass it around. So we're going to use this to go to neighborhoods and such, and I got a whole list of what we're going to do to try to promote this. You can get the app on your phone. And this specific piece of paper has the little square thing on the top right that you can click on with your phone camera, and it'll take you right in to log in. It's free. It's very secure. And all you do is go in and set up a profile. You can also do it by accessing the software through our web pages in the township in Ingham County, and opt in, and you get what you want. So all emergencies, special notifications, which you got to be careful because you'll get a lot of notifications, but you can opt in just to Meridian Township, but what we'd like you to do is opt in to Ingham County and Meridian Township, because they also could send out notifications for us if it's a big enough emergency that Chief Plaga's people or my people can't get to. So there's options there. The traffic notifications are great. If you're going to head down 127, you get that notification that there's a traffic accident, you go somewhere else. And I've been using that for years, and it's been very helpful, at least here. When I leave this area, it's no good. But the mobile app makes it a lot easier also. One of the things they're working on right now is trying to do some upgrades through Everbridge, because it still has some of the Nixle interface, if you will, and they don't work so good. So they're working on changing some numbers and zip codes and things like that. In fact, I just got an email from Ingham County on that yesterday, so they're making some progress. So it's an opt-in. And so how do we get people to opt in? And one of the things that Chief Plaga and his team actually came up with, let's start with National Night Out. It's coming up really quick, election night, and we'll be in all the communities, and we're going to hand out exactly what you see there. And then we're going to go to senior centers, and my goal is to get the nursing homes, and there's 11 of them, assisted living, and at least get one phone at those centers that is 24/7 that they'll get a notification to help alert them. And then community centers, I mean, the list goes on, neighborhood groups, we're going to send them out on water bills, taxes, and we're also going to hit the faith-based organizations. So again, the goal would be to try to hit every taxpayer we can get. We're already doing well with just under 8,000. If we can get up to all of the, we have about 14,000 taxpayers and their families, we're going to really be solid. These are the websites that you can go to. It's going to be on our township website front page. I believe it's going to be scrolling. Police front page, fire front page. You can also go to Ingham County, and then of course you can download the app, and I put the information on how to do that. The nice thing about National Night Out, and again, Chief Plaga and his group came up with this, is we're going to take these sheets of paper like we have, and we're going to actually help people. If they want to join, we're going to help them right there join. It's not hard, but there could be some glitches, and we want to make sure people can get through it. If you have questions, Chief Plaga has a phone number on here and an email, and then we have a phone number, and they can always call me. So that's our mass notification and our attempt to try to get more people to opt in and use it for emergencies, and we'll work in the future on internal use. Let's say Frank wants to, Chief Manager Walsh wants to close the township for tomorrow because we have a water issue or something, we can send out a message to all employees. So there's many options here. Questions?
Yes, we will allow questions at this time. You have questions or comments to make, and the board members specifically.
I will comment that I started using Nixle and then went to Everbridge, and it's a wonderful system. I get both email and text alerts.
And again, one of the problems, I don't think I explained well, we had some residents that thought they moved over into the new Everbridge, and they did not. And so we didn't do a good job back when we instituted Everbridge, and now we're going to do that. I was with a different group at the time. I knew about it and I helped with it, but we didn't do a good job sending out the message. Now we will.
Others? I have a couple of points to make, have you clarify for me. So we were talking about 14,000 households, and you talked about, you used that as a representation of the population of the township. But I think, and you also used the term taxpayers. So I think it's open to subscription to all residents of the township.
All residents and people that maybe just come into the township and work during the day.
Right. All people, all share people in the township at any time. The other comment I wanted to clarify was you talk about free and then costing. So it's free to the subscribers, the individual subscribers, and any cost in this instance is incurred by either the township or the county who's sponsoring the use of this particular subscription. Is that correct?
Yes, so the cost is shared by, so the biggest cost is shared by Ingham County and City of Lansing. It was originally purchased with Homeland Security money. I think they still use Homeland Security money. Chief Plaga budgets, I think, $5,000 a year, and then the other townships that are involved, or other cities and townships that are involved in this, they all pay a small fee, although I don't think they've billed us in a couple of years, but so I think they're paying with Homeland Security money, and that's probably why. Okay. So that's really the incurring costs. Right. When they get to what I mentioned, where they may pull in all the 911 phone numbers from dispatch, there's going to be a cost there, and we don't know what it is yet. I'm hoping that Region 1, Homeland Security, pays for it, but we'll see.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move to Item 5, where citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. Are there any is there anyone present who would like to speak to the board at this time? There are 2 opportunities, and I forgot my script on this, but we are prepared to hear any comments at this time. There seem to be none, so we move on then to item 6. That's the Township Manager's Report.
Thank you very much, Supervisor and members of the board. Just a few things this evening. First, we had our meeting, we have semi-annual meetings with medical management, and they're the group that is responsible for the billing for our paramedic services to the fire department. And we've been with them for more than a decade. As you know, in our budget under the revenue side, we budget about $1,350,000. And that's been our targeted number for a number of years as far as revenue side from paramedic calls. And Treasurer DeShane and Finance Director Garber and Chief Hamill and I met with them this afternoon to see kind of where we're at for the year. And you should know that call volume is up, the revenue is up. Could be, as far as revenue back to the township, this could be the most revenue that we've seen from our paramedic service. Our estimate today that we're going to finish the year is over $1.6 million. So we could be up $250,000, which is interesting because you look at we've added 4 paramedic firefighters to our force to get back to 34, which is still not where we were, I think, approximately 10 or 12 years ago when we were at 36. But just know that as far as the revenue side, and of course our service side is simply outstanding, the service that we provide to the residents. The 2023 budget. By law, the budget has to be to the board. It's going to be approximately a $52 to $55 million budget, and it'll be in your hands by law 120 days before the end of the calendar year. So expect it around August 28th. And then I believe it's on September 6th. There'll be 2 weekends that you'll have it in hand before the budget hearing is scheduled for September 6th. And then final adoption would be considered on September 20th. We've not needed a second meeting since I'm in this is my 10th budget with the township. We've not needed a second meeting, but there's always that ability for the board on September 6th. If you don't get through where you want to get through on the 6th, you can schedule a special meeting the following week to have further budget discussions. But you'll have the budget on the 28th, and of course let us know if you have any questions. I want to recognize the Garden Club and the HBA, the Hazlet the Hazlet Beautification Association. Look around us, go up in Hazlet at the Four Corners. They do great work and we really appreciate it. A big appreciation to Betsy Hull for her service. She's done a great job, great communicator, readily available, and appreciate what you did tonight for her. Our bond rating, we have our every 3 years. Because of our local road millage, we have a bond rating that's required for us to seek through Standards & Poor's. We are in the top 21% in the state of Michigan with a AA rating. We sought a coveted AAA rating, which is only 6% of the communities in Michigan have. I can tell you that our metrics meet the AAA. In fact, I could compare us to Bloomfield Hills, which I'd love to do tonight, but I won't take up your time, where they're at with their pension payoffs, their legacy cost. We outpace Bloomfield Hills, the township. Unfortunately, their income levels meet the AAA standards, and that's the one area that we have strong personal income levels here in the township, but not as strong as 3 or 4 of the communities that have AAAs. But as I tried to point out to the the rate adjuster from Boston, who's probably never been to Michigan or has any idea where Meridian Township is at. We have Michigan State University here. We have the state of Michigan. We have Jackson National Life, Delta Dental. But I want to just stop, even though we achieved, again, a AA rating, AA plus rating, which is very significant and will help in our upcoming bond levy. I just want to thank the whole team that was involved in this, Supervisor Jackson, Treasurer DeShane, and a number of our directors that were involved in this, because we really put our best foot forward. I thought our presentation this time was better than it was 3 years ago. We're obviously disappointed we didn't reach AAA. We know how close we are, but as you look at our metrics all improved in the last 3 years, and that's a good sign. I'd like to close out my report, if it's okay, Supervisor Jackson, with inviting Samantha Deal up to the podium. Samantha's in our communications department, and she has far better news than anything that I just covered. So, Samantha?
I don't know about that.
Talent right here, talent.
For those who don't know, I'm Samantha Deal, the Multimedia Production Operations Specialist for the Township. I'm also the one who televises these meetings, other meetings too, but I found out this morning that Home TV was named as a finalist for the NATOA Government Programming Awards for our live coverage of the Township Board meetings. So NATOA stands for the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors, very long name, but what I thought was so cool was the 3 other finalists we are grouped with. They're all communities far larger than us, so I think it's cool that we were included in that. We have James City County, Virginia, and then Moreno Valley, California, and then also the city of Los Angeles. So to be
considered for this award, this national award with the City of Los Angeles. That's pretty incredible. So we don't find out until September, but very excited for the recognition and hope for the best. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Item 7 on our agenda is board member reports of activities and announcements. Treasurer DeShane.
Thank you. I'll be brief. On July 20th, I attended the CATA board meeting, and news from that is that effective October 1, there will be some route changes that will affect Meridian CATA routes. I'll provide those printouts of that at our next meeting. The good news is CATA is changing under its leadership with Brad Funkhauser. They're becoming more consumer focused. Evidence of this is that this upcoming year, starting October 1st, the 6 CATA holidays they're normally shut down completely for, CATA will now offer on-demand service anywhere in the CATA service area for $2.50 a ride. So you can go from West Lansing to Stockbridge on Christmas Day for $2.50. So they're really trying to be responsive to the market, and they know that people without transportation need it even more so on the holidays. So they're offering this on-demand service for the whole service area. It's very exciting. And as I say, I'll include in the packet next meeting more on the CATA route changes. And then lastly, on Saturday, I attended the 25th anniversary celebration at Harris Nature Center with Clerk Guthrie, Trustee Wilson, and Supervisor Jackson. And as Supervisor Jackson was one of the featured speakers, I'll allow her to say more about that event. Thank you.
It was a very informative information. They were celebrating new development in at the Harris Nature Center, and a very interesting description of all of the services and activities that are available there. I'm very happy I went. I encourage everyone in the township who has not or has not recently visited the Harris Nature Center to take your family and enjoy its offerings. Trustee Wilson.
I've got one more. 2 weeks ago, I went to the Sparrow Hospital, the new emergency center that they are developing on Jolly Road, just west of Okemos Road. It's a phenomenal facility. They are going to have 11 emergency bays. They are going to have private practice doctors there. I met one of the doctors who specializes in gerontology. They will have X-ray and CT scan, and they're building an MRI there. So this is going to be an extraordinary facility, so easily accessible to our residents. And so I encourage you all to keep an eye out, because it's going to open the end of September. And I know several of you are going this week to see it too. It's a remarkable facility.
Thank you. Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I would like to encourage people to return their absentee ballots and to return their application for absentee ballot. And I want to remind folks out there who are listening that if you are on the permanent absentee list, it means that you automatically received an application for an absentee ballot. And in order for you to actually receive your absentee ballot, you must fill out the application for the absentee ballot and return it to our office. You can do it online still. You can get your absentee ballot online still on the State of Secretary's Michigan Voter Information Center website. You can come to our office, 5151 Marsh Road here in Okemos, and we can issue you an absentee ballot at the same time that you apply for one. You can vote early here at the clerk's office when you get your ballot. We have several stations. We also have a voter assist terminal set up here in the Township Hall, so if you need a voter assist terminal to vote, we have that ready for you. And the last thing I want to let you know about absentee ballots is that they are due by 8 p.m. by close on Election Day, which is Tuesday, August 2nd. It's coming up, and our offices are also open on the Saturday prior to election, so I guess that's this Saturday, correct? From 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. We are happy to help folks get registered, figure out any issues that anyone has. I hate to mention this, but you can spoil your ballot and revote if you would like to. We've done a number of those as well. So And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the clerk's office. Our email address is clerksoffice@meridian.mi.us. I think that all the polling location information is on the State of Michigan website and the township website. Most polling locations have changed in Meridian Township, and a lot of voter information has changed due to statewide redistricting. So if you see differences in your voter information card, that is why. If you have any questions about it, we are happy to answer those for you. That's it. Oh yeah, polls, Tuesday, August 2nd, polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
And I also enjoyed the Harris Nature Center 25th anniversary, and it is the same exact year that I started working here at Meridian Township. So I will always remember, and it was the first story I ever covered when they were in there doing construction on the house. So it was felt honored and very special to be at that event. And our former Harris Nature Center coordinator, Kit Rich, was there, Luann Maisner was there, a bunch of good folks were there. So it was a really lovely time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I'll just add on, since it's part of my day job, that the website for the state of Michigan to request an absentee ballot is www.michigan.gov/vote. So you can go there, and there's all sorts of good information on there that Clerk Guthrie has already mentioned. I also just wanted to take a moment to brag on the Meridian Township Parks Department. My little ones have started to take advantage of some of the summer programming that the Parks Department has put on. They were in Sporties for Shorties with Mike Devlin, and we also went to Rec on the Move a couple of weeks ago as well. Just some really top-notch programming that the Parks Department is putting on. So I wanted to encourage people to get more involved. There's still a few weeks of summer left before little ones go back to school, and a lot of good events every week. So make sure you come out and take advantage of that.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll move now then to item 8, which is approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Support by Trustee Hendrickson. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Chair votes yes, and the motion passes unanimously. We move now to item 9, which is the consent agenda. On our consent agenda today are, of course, communications, minutes from our July 12, 2020 regular meeting, the bills. Item 9D is a resolution of support and commitment of funding from the township for the MSU to Lake Lansing Connector Trail Phase 1. The consent agenda also includes the Treasurer's investment report for the second quarter of 2022 and information about a planned board retreat for 2022. Treasurer Deschênes.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Trustee
Treasurer Deschênes.
Thank you. If I could just discuss this for a minute before we formally approve it. On the treasurer's report, as I noted in the cover memo, it is $10 million higher than the previous quarterly report, and it's really an accounting change. We moved money from our Horizon accounts, where we typically will draw down that money throughout the year, to Michigan Class, which is a pooled fund, and in moving that $10 million over, we got an additional 0.75% interest, and that really amounts to a lot of money. Annually, it'd be $75,000 for that. We won't keep it there all year, but short-term enough, even for 3 months, we'll get a quarter of that, and so it's worth that move. We're going to see you'll see a more detailed Treasury report in the coming months because the rates are rising, and we're going to do our best to take advantage of them while still protecting the security of all of our short-term and long-term investments. Safety is our #1 rule with township investments. If I could also discuss for a moment the board retreat. Supervisor Jackson has asked me to organize this for this year. It's the third retreat we have done. I believe for 3 of the board members at the table here have not yet attended a board retreat. We started this in 2019. And we used Larry Merrill for the first 2 years from the Michigan Township Association. Trying something different this year. I'm recommending that we hire Nancy Marr of a Sondhaven company. Nancy's worked with other municipalities, including the city of Brighton. You can see her proposed agenda, and it's for the day, the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team workshop. And the outline is provided in the board packet as well. There is a bit involved with board members, though, because we'll be given a, if you will, a personality survey that will ask us all to take, as well as the manager and deputy manager, if they participate, as I hope they will. And they will, we will have all these, if you will, profiles that she will assimilate and bring back to us and talk to us about the kind of team that we are on paper. And then we'll use that information to talk about how we can be more effective in the year ahead. It's an exciting concept using scientific techniques as well as just good old-fashioned people skills and learning how to be as effective as we can for the voters of Meridian Township who put us here in office. So that's the proposal for October 22nd. There's no MSU home game that day, and it is a Saturday for those that have day jobs, but we are asking you to give up a Saturday, essentially from 9 until 4 that day. Lunch will be provided. Most likely the location, again, will be the fire station. It will be a community event. The community public is welcome to attend and observe us as we are going through that workshop. So October 22nd, our retreat. Thank you.
Okay. Are there other comments about the consent agenda? Then the motion is to approve, and the motion has been duly seconded. Mr. Lemaster.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie,
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson,
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 10 is questions for the attorney. We have none noted tonight. 11, we have no hearings. Item 12 is action items, and the first 12A is the final adoption of ordinance 2022-11. Mr. Schmidt, Director Schmidt, will introduce this item for board consideration.
Madam Supervisor, this is the final potential action and final adoption of the zoning ordinance to the First Amendment to the sign ordinance that would exempt municipal signage from the provisions of the ordinance. At the direction of the board, we did publish this in the Lansing State, publish a notice of intent to adopt in the Lansing State Journal pursuant to your action at the last meeting. So at this time, we are in a position to adopt the ordinance should the Township Board choose to do so. Again, to reiterate, this would exempt municipal signs from the provisions of the sign ordinance, largely because the majority of township property is zoned residential, which is has severe limitations on the amount of signage you can actually put on it. So to do anything to truly sign our properties, we do need to exempt ourselves from the ordinance. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Wilson would like to make the motion, I presume.
Move to adopt the resolution approving for final adoption zoning amendment 2022-11 to amend the zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of Meridian as section 86-696 to amend the standards for municipal signs.
Support. Supported by Clerk Guthrie. Would you like to make further comments?
I'll make a small comment.
Yes.
That this is a practical matter more than anything else to allow us to do signage that will have impact and inform our residents. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
Okay. And Clerk Guthrie?
Yes, I want to echo that, as well as the reserved time that this will have for staff having to put up those banners and stuff. My only concern or question, which I'm sure the manager and the M team, the directors are on top of, is the implementation of that process. Not that this has anything to do with you. I know this is your portion. What's going to go on there, but I know that there's lots of messaging to get out there and understand the importance of this, and so that is why I'm supporting it tonight.
I would only add that this motion, this action has become necessary partly because the township is still in the midst of a marketing program, municipal signed program, and this particular change in our ordinance facilitates that process.
That is correct.
All right. Since this is for final adoption, if there are no further comments, Mr. Lemaster will call the roll.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt. Item 12B, Police Department Ordinance Amendments and Additions for final adoption. Chief Plaga and Township Attorney Harkness.
Madam Supervisor, board members, this adoption of this ordinance is to bring two of our current ordinances in line with state statute and then also adopt additional penalties to ordinance that we currently enforce under state statute. By adopting them into ordinance, it allows us to get any fines and costs associated with those and also have them prosecuted through our township attorney.
Okay. Mr. Harkness, would you like to add anything?
Chief summed it up pretty well. The only thing I can think to add is this would come at no additional cost to the township. It's all covered under the current prosecution contract.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to approve the introduction of the amendments to Chapter 50 of the Code of Ordinances to amend trespass and disturbing the peace and add defrauding an innkeeper, breaking and entering, receiving and concealing stolen property, and inhalation of or consumption of chemical agent.
Support.
Supported by Mr. DeShane. Mr. Hendrickson, would you like to make further comments?
Simply to say that I appreciate the work we have done to come into accordance with the state statute, and I think this will grant us additional local control that we should have. So I thank the chief for bringing this to us and Mr. Harkness, and I'm looking forward to supporting this.
And Mr. DeShane.
As discussed in the last meeting, I think this will also help us to be more expedited in our prosecution and provide relief for the homeowner or business owner where a crime has been committed against them. So welcome that as well.
All right. Anyone else? I would just add that I still don't like the wording of the state law, which in our ordinances will be 5118.
Yes.
The language of it bothers me, but that has nothing to do with this action. Mr. Lemaster, since this is for final adoption.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Item 12C, ordinance 2022-08, traffic impact study standards. This is the introduction of another ordinance amendment. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. This request is something that the Planning Commission's looked at multiple times this year. Earlier this year, and ultimately recommended approval to the Township Board. The Township Board reviewed it at the last meeting, had no major concerns. It would make the standards for traffic impact studies consistent throughout the ordinance after the changes that were made with the MUPUD ordinance. Additionally, it would put everything in one place instead of having to look in multiple places to get the standards. So this was Senior Planner Shorkey's first go at ordinance, and after the Planning Commission recommendation, we've now brought this to the board. If the board so chooses, a resolution in the packet this evening would direct us to publish an intent to adopt, which we will bring back for adoption at the next meeting.
Okay. Trustee Wilson.
Move to adopt the resolution approving for introduction zoning amendment 2022-08 to amend the zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of Meridian at multiple locations to update the standards for traffic impact studies in the township.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Hendrickson. Further comments?
Just that this does bring together all of the traffic impact study standards into one place, and it also standardizes it across all ordinances. So this makes, again, it's a practical matter that we should take care of.
And Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Yeah, I very much appreciate staff's efforts to streamline our ordinance, to make it easy to understand to the layperson, as well as consistent for folks wishing to come in and develop and do business in the township. I hope that this is not the last time we see traffic studies addressed in the future as we move forward. I know that I've, throughout my time on the Planning Commission and now on the board, I've seen a number of instances where the traffic studies seem a bit onerous and in some cases out of date or incorrect based on, some of the circumstances that exist. And it's my hope that this is just the first time that we'll see the traffic studies brought before us, and that down the road we can find a more common sense approach to when we do require them.
No further comments. It has been moved to introduce this ordinance amendment for further processing. All in favor of the motion to approve, to introduce, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. The chair votes yes, and the motion passes. 12D is ordinance 2022-12, refuge storage container regulations, and this is for introduction as well.
It is.
An ordinance amendment for introduction. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. This is another item the planning staff and the Planning Commission have worked on multiple times this year. And conveniently enough, I actually got a complaint about one of these today, so our timing is impeccable. Township Board, the Planning Commission did recommend this be adopted by the board, and the board discussed this at the July 12th meeting. And the supervisor raised a very interesting question at that meeting about, the home garbage container, typically roughly 96 gallons in most cases, sometimes larger. And after the supervisor made her points, I actually talked to IT Director Giebes, and he raised another similar point, and it got staff thinking a little bit. And so what we've done is we've actually made one minor change from when you saw this previously, and it's actually in the definition at the very beginning of temporary container unit. We have exempted, we have made it clear that it's a container over 250 gallons. That is that will cover every normal residential trash container. So that is clearly not what we're regulating here. We're regulating big roll-offs. Okay. But that is the only change. So at this point, we are happy with where we're at, and should the board choose, we will publish this in notice of intent to adopt in advance of your next meeting.
Okay. Board members. Trustee Wilson.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving for introduction zoning amendment 2022-12 to amend the zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of Meridian to create regulations for temporary storage pods and temporary container units.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Hendrickson. Trustee Wilson, anything to add?
Only that it's an opportunity for us to take care of a nuisance kind of thing that comes up and craft some language about how we will handle that in the future. So I thank you for doing that work, Director.
And Mr. Hendrickson.
Yeah, thank you. So I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I did watch, and I appreciated the questions that Supervisor Jackson had offered as well. Just a couple of fly-specking notes. There appears to be a typo in Section 2A. The word "the" appears to be spelled incorrectly, so sorry about that. And then just a quick one. Yep, there you go. You got it. And then just for the folks at home, in Section G there, a temporary container unit may be placed anywhere in the front yard outside of the road right-of-way. Can you give me the definition of the road right-of-way so that everyone's aware of what that is?
So the right-of-way is typically the area in which the public improvements are located. So the road, sidewalks, typically utilities are placed there. Not all utilities, but most. So it generally is the area from 1 foot outside of the sidewalk to 1 foot outside of the sidewalk on the other side of the road. If you don't have a sidewalk, your typical measurement, in most cases, is going to be 30 feet from the center of the road. Yep. Those are general standards, and that from subdivision to subdivision can change, but that is the general rule. Is the right-of-way is where the public improvements are for any given development.
So no overhanging onto the sidewalk.
That is very, yes.
Good point.
Just worth mentioning.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll hear about it. But anyway, I thank you for that explainer, and I look forward to supporting this.
All right. No other comments? This is an amendment being introduced, and so we can have a voice vote. The motion is to approve the introduction, I presume. All in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. The chair votes yes, and the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. But don't leave, because we have item 12E. And this is the mixed-use plan unit development number 22-014-1014 at 1621 and 1655 Hazlitt Road, Hazlitt Village Square. Mr. Schmidt, this is for approval of that plan unit development?
Yes, ma'am. This is the, thank you, Madam Supervisor. This is the end of a long process. Director Clark and I and Manager Walsh have had meetings on this project going back very early into my tenure here. And the Planning Commission began their review of this project in early April. Ultimately, made a positive recommendation to the board. The board has now seen it at the last 4 meetings. The project is a nearly complete redevelopment of the existing Hazlitt Village Square Shopping Center. If you go out there today, the building on the far west end is demoed. It's almost demoed completely. That is the previously called the Pine Village project. It's now the American House project that started construction. This project covers everything else. The only building that would remain is the building where the church is currently located, up on Hazlitt Road, sort of in the front middle of the site. They are proposing to rehabilitate that building and utilize it as a space for a potential restaurant, potential community space, but the remainder of the buildings would be removed. In their place, there would be 20 new buildings, total of 290 residential units, 21,750 square feet of non-residential space, community hub in the building, as I mentioned, along with a series of public amenities, including a trailhead for the MSU to Lake Lansing Trail that will be built and transferred in some way to be determined to the township. This is a major investment. This is the largest redevelopment project that we've seen, and will bring some much needed vitality to this area. It's still early in the process. They still have to go through the site plan process. They still have to get approval of the Drain Commission and the Road Commission. There are a number of steps still to go. And one thing that is new to this is we will put together, after, should the board choose to adopt this, we will put together an MUPUD agreement that was included in the PUD update ordinance that was done last year, and this will sort of outline the parameters for what we're working with over the course of the next 3 to 7 years, depending on how long construction takes. So at this point, staff is happy to recommend approval of this plan. We are comfortable with it, and would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Okay, and we actually had our public hearing for this development at our last meeting, July 12th.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to adopt the resolution approving the mixed-use plan unit development request from SP Holding Company, LLC, for the redevelopment of the Hazlet Village Square Shopping Center at 1621 and 1655 Hazlet Road.
Treasurer DeShane.
I support this motion.
All right. Comments? Further, yes, Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I think, at any given point, we've all expressed a overriding desire to see a good project come into the village, the Hazlet Village Square location. And I think that this is an excellent project. We've seen it, as you pointed out, Director Schmidt, a number of times. And every time I look at the plans for this project, you're awestruck by how much is going to be coming in there and how much that area will change and will be turned from unutilized space into a thriving and vital area. I think that this is also a good test case and use for the changes that this board implemented to the mixed-use plan unit development ordinance that passed earlier this year. And I think that, if we continue to get amenities like what we're going to be getting as a township from this project, I think that was time well spent and hard work well done by both the Planning Commission and this body. I'm really excited to see this project succeed, over the next few years. It's going to take a while, obviously. This is a big change. It's a lot coming in. So I'd ask the residents' patience as this project comes to be. But I wholeheartedly support this, and I'm looking forward to the positive change that this will bring to the Hazlet community.
Thank you. Mr. DeShane.
Thank you. I too am really excited about this project. 31 years ago, I moved to Hazlet, built a house about 1.5 miles from the Hazlet Village Square. And back then, the Hazlet Village Square was a happening place. Every square foot of commercial space was full. The CJ Video, you couldn't get a parking spot near. The L&L was doing well. There was restaurants. There was a toy store. There were card shops. The bank was busy. I mean, it was really a happening place, and everyone in that area used that center. And over the next 15 years, it slowly dwindled. The retail market changed. Best example of that is who goes to the video store anymore, okay? And that changed about 20 years ago. They started changing, and we see what happened there. This is different than what was there before, but it meets the current market, and we know from our market studies we need more housing and this type of rental housing in the Hazlet area, so it's really focused on what the market needs. It's exciting. I also like Trustee Hendrickson liked the amenities that were included here, the community focused bundle of a trailhead that will be deeded to the township, the car charging stations, the outdoor public seating area, and the public recreation space, not to mention the green space, the low flow plumbing, the wireless access points, and the decorative lighting along the streets. I mean, those are 8 significant amenities, and best of all, the waivers being asked by the applicant are not that onerous either. I mean, we've seen much stronger waivers being asked of the township, and these are essentially setbacks to make the property fit, yet still allow for safety and public use of the space. So, and then the other part of this that makes it exciting for us is we didn't need to spend any money from the Meridian Redevelopment Fund. The developer came to the township with the financing through a delayed implementation of the taxing for 10 years will allow the developer to recapture some of the construction costs. Meanwhile, the property tax value will remain fixed. If nothing were done there, it would remain fixed for another 10 or 20 or 30 years. So there's really no loss to the township if nothing else were done. So just lots of reasons to be excited about this project, and thank the developer for bringing this to us. And we're excited to have this process move along and break ground there. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just add.
Trustee Wilson.
We're taking advantage of a new economic development tool with the Commercial Rehabilitation Act. So that's an exciting thing for our township to undertake with the developer, and we're really happy that you are taking this option.
I would just add to all of the comments that have been made that I agree that this is a wonderful new approach to redevelopment in Meridian Township. We are very happy to thank the developers. Would you remind me of the name of the development group again?
So it's Bosgraf Homes and Paramount Realty Partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing this opportunity, taking advantage of this opportunity and bringing this project to us. All right. If there are no further comments, then we need a roll call vote. Mr. Lemaster.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
And the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 12F. We'll bring to the podium Director Maisner to talk about a Hazlet Road boundary correction proposal.
Good evening, Supervisor Jackson and Board. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. At your last meeting, I introduced this potential project moving forward with we have a land preserve. It's called the Lake Lansing South Land Preserve. Then we have the railroad tracks. Lake Lansing is to the north. It's on Carlton Street, and they have two small access points on Hazlet Road. We have a neighbor here at 1442 Hazlet, Eliza Hedemark, and we have this area of land that's 5.75 feet wide. And it really has served as, like I said, a nuisance to both the township and to the homeowner. And we have an opportunity to correct this. And actually, it will be of greater value to the land preserve as well, because they will add land from the back of their property to the land preserve in exchange for this width of 5.75. The landowner has agreed as well to pay for updating the surveys for both properties, the land preserve and their own property, as well as updating the property description. And I would like to bring to your attention, before you consider reading the motion, is that Trustee Hendrickson did bring to my attention, I have a typo, where we need to get that corrected before moving forward. But in the motion, it says 285 square feet plus or minus, and it's 580 feet plus or minus, which is identified earlier in the description, but I was a typo in the actual motion. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate that. Any questions?
Do you have questions? Then we will entertain a motion. Trustee Wilson.
Move to support amending the boundary of Lake Lansing South Preserve, located at 5763 Carlton Street, by trading an equal square footage of land, approximately 585 square feet plus or minus, with an adjacent property owner, Eliza Hedemark, 1442 Hazlet Road. The landowner is responsible for costs associated with updating surveys, property descriptions, and associated costs.
Support. Supported by Clerk Guthrie. Ms. Wilson?
It's a correction. Let's
It's a
fix it.
correction. Let's fix it, okay. Clerk Guthrie?
I just wish that you could express our gratitude to the homeowner for bringing this forward, for doing this and working with this township on correcting something that needs to be corrected. So I'm just very appreciative of that.
I will
You could
do
just
that.
pass
I will do
along.
that. Thank you. Because it is one of those things we could have just not done anything.
Yeah.
But they're actually mowing that area, and that's really not something that happens on land preserves. So there's some things going on, but it was such a tiny thing, but it was so great that they brought it to our attention, and they're able to participate in actually making it better for everyone. So thank you. Great. I'll share that.
Anyone else? All right, this is a motion that requires a roll call vote, I believe. Mr. Lemaster?
Trustee Wilson,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie,
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 12G, authorization of police candidate sponsorship will be led by Chief Plaga.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Board members, this is asking to the board to authorize the sponsorship of the three fine young people that came before the board today to the August 17th Police Academy that's located at Lansing Community College. It's their West Campus.
Okay. Trustee Wilson.
Move to sponsor candidates Sarah Hubbard, Natalie Tyndale, and Brent Spence to the Mid-Michigan Police Academy Fall Semester 2022 at Lansing Community College.
Treasurer DeShane.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Ms. Wilson, you have additional comments?
We have been working for a long time to increase our police department to a level where we'd like to be, where we really can have more officers out on the street and so on. So I think this is an opportunity to take these young people who are exemplary that you've introduced us to and get them through the police academy so they can go to work for us.
Clerk Guthrie.
I just have a few questions. Could you remind me, or the board, what the cost of a sponsorship is?
So usually the cost of the sponsorship is about $8,500 in tuition, and then we pay a reduced non-police officer salary, closer to a cadet salary, while they attend the academy. However, the 5 candidates we have attending, or hopefully have attending this academy, their tuition is being paid by Michigan Works.
Oh.
So we are paying for a salary so they can support themselves during the 3.5 months that they're at the police academy.
And I just have a few more questions. And they're not cadets while they're going through this, correct?
No, our cadets actually work the desk, the front desk. They answer our phones. They're the first face of the department. You see 4 of the 5 candidates are previous cadets.
Okay. And last question, is there a requirement that if they're sponsored by the township that they have to work here for a certain length of time or anything like that? How does that
So
work?
we did when we were paying for the tuition, but now that Michigan Works is paying for the tuition, there is we can't require them to pay back wages. So there's no requirement there. However, once they graduate the academy, the township is the only agency that's allowed to activate their license to be a police officer. Now, does that mean they can't leave in 3 months, 3 days after they get their license activated? No. However, with them being former cadets, they know where they're coming, right? They have a feel for what the department is. Their eyes are wide open coming in. So we're hoping that's successful in retention.
Okay.
Along with many other efforts.
Thank you.
Treasurer DeShane.
Yes, Chief, I understand that certain cities, depending on their poverty level in that city or income levels in the community, do get federal grants or state grants to pay for police academy sponsorship. Are you aware of that program?
So there was we did apply for a state grant that had, through the Department of Labor, that had just come through, and we were not awarded that grant. They based a lot of those awards on taxable value, poverty levels, need in those communities.
Yep. So my point is not that we should have gotten that, because I understand why we didn't, but we are at a disadvantage without offering a scholarship or some kind of incentive for that candidate to come to Meridian. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, what I'll tell you is 10 years ago, there'd be 40 young people in the academy going through the training, and maybe 20 of those folks were sponsored and 20 were pre-service. The Mid-Michigan Police Academy, we had to really ask for some favors to get all 5 of these folks in, because all of the candidates that are going through the academies are sponsored. I was just at the Chiefs Conference, and capacity to train is one of the issues that we're having right now in law enforcement. We can't train police officers fast enough to fill the void.
Thank you.
Further comments? Okay, this is an authorization to support the police department's program of sponsorships, and so we need a roll call vote. Mr. Lemaster?
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
And now we'll do, in item 12H, we'll do a similar deed for our fire chief, Chief Hamill.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor Board. Thank you for your consideration. So we're looking at sending our 2 new firefighters to paramedic training. It's a 16-month program. It's through Ascension, which is out of Grand Blanc. The program they're actually going to attend, if approved, is in Livingston County. The Grand Blanc program actually filled up, which is a really good sign for 24 students there. Only 2 sponsored, so that's even a better sign. As you can see, it's about 970 hours. It can go upwards of about 1,020 hours, depending on the program, and they're between 970 and 1,020. And that would be Nicholas Irving and Stephen Schott at a cost of $5,000 each, but it's over 2 budget years. So that's a benefit there. We don't have to pay for them on their days off. And because they're full-time with us, we don't pay that salary or that hourly wage like Chief Plaga does with his cadets. So we have a huge savings of probably about $15,000, or more like about $12,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I would entertain a motion. Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to approve the sponsorship of 2 EMT firefighters, Nicholas Irving and Stephen Schott, to attend 16-month paramedic program at Ascension Genesis Hospital.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Wilson. Further comments? Questions? No? Then we need a roll call vote for this action as well.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the Downtown Development Authority Annual Report. Will be presented by Director Clark. Please proceed.
Good evening. Some housekeeping today. We do every year have to present the annual report of the DDA's financing. This is related to the changes made for tax authority reporting in 2018. So we give a little bit more robust information in the DDA annual report. That was presented to the DDA at their meeting this month. We are a little bit behind, I will say, but we won't be next year. Something to note to the community is that our report is due by summer, so it will include the summer taxes from the year before and winter taxes, which if there is an appeal, then there is generally some sort of reduction. We did have an appeal for 21 that came through this year for Walgreens property, so they ended up actually with a negative capture, and we we'll revert some funding back regarding that. It's about $5,000. I think it was $5,333 to be exact. It doesn't change the reflection of the capture, as you'll notice, because really what we're looking at is what was the base, you get a number for the base value, which was created in 2018 when the board approved a new TIF plan for the DDA, and then what the current value is, and what that capture amount is. Total revenues, $39,252.09. And so now the DDA is positive, and there's some funding in there for other investment in the area. I did include also the current year-to-date financing, just so you can see, and the community can see how the funds have been spent so far. Our biggest expenditures for the last year was consumer energy, but we also included the $520. That's the debt interest that we used to have, but due to the board's charity that we were able to get that relief. So we did have to include that. Questions?
Okay. Treasurer DeShane.
I move to approve the 2021 annual report and to submit to the state of Michigan, post on the township website, and make it available for members of the public.
Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Trustee Wilson. Mr. DeShane, do you have additional comments?
Sure, just a brief one. To Director Clark, thank you for your help putting this together. You've asked my office for some information here, and you, of course, asked the assessor for information, but you've taken responsibility for this report. Prior to your arriving, this fell largely on the treasurer, the previous deputy treasurer, who did a great job, but it was a lot of work for her. And we have a new deputy treasurer, and you've taken a great deal of burden off her shoulders by taking ownership of this report, so thank you for that. Make the same comment to Director Schmidt with the BRA reporting, which previously defaulted to the treasurer's office, and now Director Schmidt has taken that over. We met about it today, and he told us what data elements we needed to provide, which is much different than, hey, if the state says you got to file this report, now get busy. So both directors have done a terrific job in taking ownership of these important state reports on TIF and BRA. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Others? Just one point of clarification. So this is a report required by the state?
Correct.
The DDA has seen the report and approved it?
Correct.
The township board now is in a position to approve it, and then it goes on to the state.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. Other questions, comments? This too requires a roll call vote. Mr. Lemaster.
Supervisor Jackson?
Oh, actually it doesn't, but that's okay.
It's okay, I like doing it.
We'll have a roll call vote, Mr. Lemaster.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you. Director Clark? Let's see. Item 12J is modification of police salary schedule. This will be this discussion will be led by Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I will readily admit this may be the most complicated issue that we go through this evening, so just bear with me, if you will. We came to you approximately 2 months ago with retention, and I won't rehash everything we've been through because I'm sure you're well aware of that. What we used to have is what is normal in a police department or a fire department, and that's a 5-year to top program. 5 years to top to get to the top salary. So in that, we had 6 steps to do that. It'd be beginning to 1 year, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 plus, the 6 steps. That's what we had up until a couple months ago. Then we came and we said, we need to really recruit, retain. We have 13 employees who are 5 years or less. What can we do? And we came up with, I thought was a real creative idea. We decided we would bring to you to eliminate the bottom 2 steps. In doing that, an oversight was created in a couple of ways. One, all of a sudden, what we didn't change was the year structure. So all of a sudden, the four tiers, which were 6, now became 4, right? Mm-hmm. So now it becomes 0 to beginning to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 plus. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, you're 3 years to top. So you're going to go from 44,000 to about 17,000 more within 3 years. So it's not really a sustainable plan for us, for many communities. And so what we're here for tonight is, there's another issue that came up. And that is, if you were you got moved up 2 steps and you're beginning in 1 year. Okay, so I've been here 9 or 10 months, 11 months. I'm in the bottom stage. I got moved up 2. So I'm now at the bottom of 4 levels. Okay? What happened is we had 3 of those officers who had been, right at the time this happened, reached their 1 year, but didn't get moved up because they had been moved up 2 levels. So now the problem is they remain at that bottom level, and guess who else? We just hired, and they're 1 to 2 years now. They've been here more than 1 year. They're at the bottom level, which is still a significant increase from $20 an hour up to $23.50. It's still a nice increase. It's a $6,000 increase. The problem became is when we hired 2 new officers here recently who just started, and a number of you were at their swearing-in ceremony, and guess where they started? At the bottom level. So now you have 3 officers who have been here a year at the same level as 2 who had just started. And in the police and fire business, that's not good. Okay? So we really struggled with what to do. So we have 2 problems. We have the 3 officers who are kind of mirrored in that issue, and then we have a 3-year to top instead of 5. So what we're here for tonight, I'm sorry for the whole explanation, but it's a little complicated. It's taken us a while to figure out. So what we're here for tonight is to add a, not to change anyone's compensation, or to diminish, I should say diminish anyone's compensation, but to add another level here that's in red. And so, and we're going to, and it's even further created by the STEP program. But to make this really simple, if you approve this tonight, we will now have 5 steps. It'll be 4 years to top. It'll be beginning to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 plus. So it does diminish the 5 years to top. It reduces it from 60 months to 48, which is a real benefit to the officers. And again, that'll help us with our retention. It's more costly for us. And the other thing it does is that it gives another level for those 3 officers that I talked about. They will now go from step 1 to step 2. And so they would go from $23 an hour, $23.53, to $25.20, which is about a $3,400 increase. If you compare it to where they were back at $20.22, they would have been going to $21.63 under the old plan. Now they're at $25.20, which is around $4. And that's a little over $8,000 more they're making than they would have been making before this plan. So sorry for the long-winded kind of explanation, but we had 2 issues. The 3 officers who got settled at the bottom level with the 2 new officers, and the 3-year to top instead of the 5. So we added another level to take care of the 3, and the other level takes us from 3 years to top to 4 years to top. And I apologize for having to bring this back, but it was an oversight on that 3-year to top. And plus, we did not foresee, because I believe that the 3 officers hit 1 year within 1 week of when this was approved by the board. So not perfect, but it's still a grand slam for our officers. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know the chief is here tonight as well. If you have any questions about what's before you. Thank you for your attention.
Board members, Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. This is what I heard. Please tell me if I misheard. I'm going to repeat it very much like more simple terms. What I heard is that there were officers that were here that hit their year mark, and that caused, and when that happened, there were also officers that were hired, and when they were hired, because of the move that the board did, it caused the new hires to go above the people who had been here 1 year. So you went back and drew this step 2, so that the people who had been here are at this step 2 of 25 without the new people making more than those people. Is that correct?
Not really. Okay, so what happened is it's close. So the 3 people who have been here, they just passed 1 year right at the time it was approved, should have gone up a level, but since they'd already gone up 2 levels, they were caught in that first level still. And then when we hired people, they go into the bottom level. So these 3 should have been up 1 level, but that additional level then put them up another $7,000. Like, that's not sustainable for the future.
Okay.
So we have these 5 people who are in the same bottom level. These 3, if this is approved tonight, would go to, they're all at 2350. If you look at your numbers, they're all at 2353. Well, that 2353 is really for 0 to 1 year. So they pass this, so they'll jump, if this is approved, they'll jump to 2520. They'll earn another $3,400 a year above the 2 new people who are still at the bottom level.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got it.
Yes, it took a couple times. And
Hey,
yes.
it's taken me a lot more than 2.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So, the 3 officers in question here, right, we're essentially, my concern is that we are rewriting the wage scale system for a fluke circumstance that came about as a result of a change that this body made that admittedly will not occur again, right, unless we make further changes to the wage scale. Is that accurate?
It's accurate, except for my point of disagreement with that statement would be that we are rewriting it because we can't have people who have 1 year of service at the same level of people who we just hired. That's why we're doing this. The whole thing, it was a fluke that happened because they hit the 1 year within 1 week of the board's action.
But well, if it had happened, if it had been a month or a week, it doesn't really make any difference, except you're going to have someone with 11 months versus, a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, the difference is semantic at that point. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that we should probably do this, right? We should have a wage scale that has 5 levels. I do want to just mention, because it needs to be mentioned, I think, that, the officers in question did get almost a $7,000 math, almost a $7,000 increase from where they were as a beginning to 1 year police officer to where they are on the first level of the new wage scale, right? They were making $42.57. They're now making $48,942. I haven't done the difference here, but it's almost, $6,885. So I understand for morale purposes, it's not a good thing to have people coming in their first day on the job making the same thing as people who have been here for a year. I just want to conceptually understand that by adding this, we're essentially giving these folks another, $3,400, and the amount of time that they have served hasn't changed. And so, yes, we're making a change that in the future will make complete sense to us. In this circumstance, to me, it feels odd, given that they just did receive a pretty hefty increase as a result of our changing the wage scale just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say to counter that is, and that's one of the ways I looked at this and why it took so long. My first reaction was they received a bump. Their bump was really from 2163 because they would have went up 1 step with their first year, and they're earning 23. So right now they're less than $2 an hour more than they would have been. So really they're at like $4,000 more than they would have been at their first year. That's the numbers. $1.90. They're making $1.90 more than they would have. But I'll tell you the way they look at it. They look at it, this was what was approved by the board, and I should be at 2686. because that's the next step. That was the 1 year. It's the second step. So they're thinking they should have went from 23 23 up to 26. And so that's their line of thinking. And I can have my own personal opinions about that. And I struggled with this for quite a while on how to handle it, because we had two issues. Really, we had the number of years to top two. I think this is, and your questions are relevant, but I think this is the best solution for what the ultimate goal is, and that's retention and recruitment. But it also has to be affordable. And this plan is all of those things, or I wouldn't be bringing it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Wilson.
We don't have a motion on the floor yet, but we are having that discussion. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Because first time we've seen this.
To me, this is a timing issue and an equity issue. The timing is that they were unfortunate enough to be caught at the very moment we were making a decision to change the wage scale for all employees. And then the equity issue is that 3 officers who have been here for 12 months should not be at the same pay rate as officers who were hired today. That's where I think the equity issue comes in. So this makes sense to me to go to this scale that creates this step. I don't think there's any harm to it. It recognizes the equity issue that those officers are deserving of a higher rate of pay and than those who have just started. So I'm comfortable with this change.
Treasurer DeShane.
I concur with Trustee Wilson. This is an equity issue. This first year is a pretty critical year. They're being taught a lot of pressure for them to perform and to meet their initial evaluation, because it's really, they're on a trial basis. They need to really bring their very best selves to this brand new job in a very demanding situation. We all respect that. And to lock them into the same wage as someone brand new without that year of experience, I think is unequal and unfair. So I'll support this new step as well.
Anyone else? Clerk Guthrie.
Sorry, I have one last question. Do you know, as I look at this and I see the wage scale from, okay, I'm going to go with the new step. I'm trying to figure out which thing I'm going to reference. Okay, so new step 2 to new step 3 to new step 4, it seems to be a bigger jump in pay between 3 and 4 than the other ones. Or I'm really bad at math.
No,
is that me, or is there a reason for that? Or is this what was set before and we're just increasing overall what was set before?
Yeah, it is. Your point's well taken. I mean, it goes from like 21 to 23 to 25, and then 30 to 31, and there is a jump there from 26 to 30. One of the reasons you see that, and it's often noticed in police and fire contracts, and a jump at that time is because if you look at the history of retention of police and firefighters, and if you look at the data of at the time they tend to make a move in their careers, and your question's well taken, and it's well that you notice that. The answer is really simple. This is about the venture. If you look at the history of transition from police and paramedics, this is about the time that people often transition to another department. So that's why if you look historical data on police and fire contracts, some of the biggest jumps occur in that 3rd to 5th year. History will tell you if you keep people 5 years in this business, you tend to have them for 25. You tend to lose them between the 2nd and 4th year. So that's why, Clerk Guthrie, that jump is there.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hendricks.
Thank you. So I've had some time to process what you've said and what my colleagues have said. The only thing I want to just be absolutely clear on is we eliminated 2 steps, right, in our action back in May. Where did the folks who were in their 1 to 2 years, former, end up on this scale?
So if I was at the scale at the beginning, at the first one, beginning to 1 year, I'm now at 2353.
Correct.
Okay. If I was and I'd been here a year making 2163, I'm up at 2026 because I moved there. We're not going. That's I think what your question is about. Are we? Maybe. Are you thinking about if we're going to move anyone back to the 20 to the?
That I'm sure would not go over well at the police station.
Yes, and we've talked. That's why it took us so long to bring this to you. This is complicated, and everyone has a different story. Everyone's in a different situation. Your point's well taken, trustee, that there are going to be people who are going to be higher than they would have been because we have this step, but we're not going to take anyone who's at the 26 and move them back to 25 for that $1 an hour.
Right. Yeah. And all I wanted to just highlight here is, number one, we're not creating a second separate step for the folks who were, 1 to 2 and are now in a different position. My concern with the equity argument is that now we've got two different classes of 1 to 2 year employees, right? We've got the ones who were right when we passed it, those 3 employees, and you've got everyone else who's 1 to 2 year. And I just want to make sure that we're cognizant of what we're doing when we're supporting this. At the end of the day, I will support this change because I think long term it's important to have the four year increment jumps, but from an equity perspective, I just want to make sure we're all eyes wide open as to what it is that is being asked of us here.
Right. I'm the numbers guy. I don't know everyone's tenure in the police department, so I think Chief Plaga could address that question.
Thank you.
So in working with the manager about this, there was one person that it could possibly affect, but their anniversary date is so close to that step date. We talked about not bringing anybody backwards, right? And that was the biggest concern. Mm-hmm. And the decision was we would not bring somebody backwards a step to put them in there. So there's an individual that would impact, which won't be moved. It's the 3 people who became off probation are now tenured police officers that, like we talked about, will be making a little bit more at the new step 2 than the 2 that just got out of the police academy and are still in field training.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Now, Mr. Walsh, you would like a vote, you would like for us to vote on this at this time?
I would. This has taken us some time. The issue was first raised like 3.5 weeks ago. We did not bring it on the last agenda because we weren't ready to respond to all the issues that we had. To us, this is the best solution covering everything. Is it perfect? No, but it's very, very close. And we would like you to, because we'd like to get this implemented so that everyone feels equity in the department.
All right. Guthrie.
I'll make a motion to approve the new police wage scale as presented by the township manager.
Treasurer DeShane.
I believe we need a motion first to waive rules and to take action on this.
That's true.
No, actually you don't, because it's placed on the agenda this way, so you don't.
In that case, I second Clerk Guthrie's motion.
Okay. Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. One question that I had relating to the function of the implementation of this is there a need or a desire to make this somehow retroactive to a date certain that, would catch them up based on time already passed since our original change to the wage scale?
My answer to that is no. This township's been very, very generous, not only with this, but the SIP program. If I'm these 3 officers, I probably am going to make $7,000 to $9,000 more this year than I expected to make. So I'm not interested in I think the motion before us is fair, And I would hope that everyone that involved would think so too. I appreciate you bringing that up, but I think moving forward, this is where we would be.
Thank you.
And it would be effective with the next payroll.
My question. Other questions or comments? We have a motion. We will need a roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Lemaster?
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
I just want to say thank you. I know it's a complicated issue, and we don't like to come back and have to correct things, but you know, it's a big step that we took. This is a step that a lot of communities are not taking, and if it takes us twice to make it right, I'm all for it. So thank you very much. I also want to highlight the report that's coming up by Finance Director Garber. Take it all in because it's great news about where we're at. Expected a $2.5 million deficit and where we're at, and we're in a very, very strong financial condition. So thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we come to item 12K, second quarter budget amendments. And I will remind you all that this is probably the first time Director Garber, Amanda Garber, has presented to this board. And so we welcome you and
Thank you.
Ask you to proceed.
So tonight I have the second quarter 2022 budget amendments in front of you. The amendments result from revenue and expenditures that were unknown during the original budget process. So I'm just going to highlight some of the larger changes. You'll notice in general fund that there's a total revenue increase of $550,000. And then a lot of these expenditures are really just allocating the SIP payments to the actual departments that they were paid to, because in the original budget, they were kind of all lumped into one line. Another item on here is the $750,000 reduction to the Meridian Redevelopment Fund. And then I also wanted to point out for the general fund that we are moving the capital outlay for network upgrades to the ARPA fund. So in summary, for general fund, we had originally budgeted about a $2.7 million decrease to the fund balance. After the first quarter budget amendments and the second quarter budget amendments, we are now projecting only about a $650,000 reduction for a projected fund balance at the end of the year of about $12.5 million. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Board members? Counting fast. Motion? Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to approve the second quarter 2022 budget amendments with an increase in budgeted fund balance for the general fund in the amount of $1,530,001, which projects a use of fund balance of $657,108. Based on 2021 results, the projected fund balance at December 31, 2022 will be $12,508,408.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Wilson. Comments?
Yeah.
Further comments?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Just wanted to commend the township, as we seem to often do, on their good financial stewardship. Coming in with less decrease in our fund balance at the end of the year is, well, almost always better. So, you know, and we've got a lot of big things that we've done in that time as well. And so I appreciate the information provided and the fact that that information that is being provided is the result of a lot of hard work by a lot of folks at the township. And so welcome, Director Garber, to you. And thank you for putting this together. And may all of your reports be this happy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Treasurer DeShane.
I also want to thank Director Garber for bringing this to us. You've had a lot to do in the first few weeks you've joined the staff, and this is a lot going on in and out, and this is very good news. I agree with Trustee Hendrickson to add almost 1.9 to the positive side of our fund balance is very good news. Manager mentioned a minute ago he's a numbers guy, and it shows with this document and his work with you to bring these numbers together. Staff is doing a great job to keep our fund balance as high as possible and still meet the goals that are set by this board. So thank you very much.
No further comments, then Mr. Lemaster.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Garber. We now move to item 13.
And you thought you were getting away without me one more time.
You almost scared me there. 13A, Plan Unit Development 22-014, which involves property at 3560 Hewlett Road, Jagir Homes. Mr. Schmidt, Director Schmidt.
Thank you very much. So the property we're looking at here is commonly referred to as the Netzloff Farm. This is the 5-acre property directly across the street from the high school entrance on Hewlett Road. This is the high school entrance where my finger is, and the farm is across the street. They are proposed, Jagir Homes has option to purchase the property and are proposing to utilize the plan unit development option or ordinance. We went back and forth with them for some time on how best to do this. They originally just wanted to do lot splits, and our assessor didn't particularly believe that was legal, and then they looked at a different approach, which we didn't think was going to work, and so this is the approach that works for them and for us. The Planning Commission did review this and raised no major concerns and recommended approval of it as well. So the request is to subdivide the property into 6 parcels, one of which would be the existing home, which would be retained on the property going forward, and 5 sellable homes served by a single cul-de-sac, the alignment of which was expressly dictated by the road department. So when this property first came in, we directed the applicant to start work with the road and drain department and commission respectively, because there are a couple of quirky issues with this. The road department functionally told them where to put this road, and that is why the lots on the north side are a little bit stubbier than the lots on the south side. Under the PUD, the applicant can reduce the size of the lots if they're setting aside the appropriate amount of open space. Taking out the wetland and the road right away, nearly 50% of the site is set aside as open space, and they will be dedicating a conservation easement to cover that. The lots are roughly the same shape as the surrounding lots in the neighborhood. It really depends because, as you can see here, the lots are all different shapes, and the lots in the surrounding neighborhood are all different shapes, but they are analogous in size to the surrounding neighborhood. The Planning Commission did have some comment from the public about drainage, and again, the Drain Commissioner standards at this point are that no water leaves the site without being captured. And so the 2 lots, C and D, that you see on the eastern edge, probably the ones of most concern, the water will be collected and directed towards the regional system just to the south. And I can show you roughly what that kind of looks like. So this, let me reorient it properly for you here. This is the Netzloff Farm property. This is essentially a regional basin down here. There is actually a drain connection right here in the common space in the neighboring subdivision. So they have multiple options if they need to get an easement here, or they get an easement here to connect, but they will be able to easily accommodate for drainage. And ultimately, the staff will take the same position that we did with the Silverleaf project on Bennett Road, that until you have the drain commissioner's approval, construction will not begin. And so we have no major concerns that drainage will be a problem with this development going forward. There's really not a lot to say. It's a pretty straightforward one, oddly enough, for as long as that property has been on the market. Mr. Jaguar built a good home, and we look forward to working with him if the Township Board so chooses. As the board established at their previous meeting, the public hearing will be held at the next meeting. So if there is any additional comment from the public, we will receive it then, and then we will continue the process for this to be potentially approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I apologize. I believe the developer must have gotten his wires crossed because I do not see him sitting right there, which is where he would normally be.
Okay. Board members, questions, comments? Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So I like what I see in the project generally. The only thing that left me with questions was, it's page 189 of the packet. It's the street tree and screening plan as provided by the applicant. Yes, that is the one. Yes. So the dots. The dots are trees, S's and L's for sugar maples and lindens. And what I noticed was it appears as though the trees are all on the cul-de-sac, which makes a perfect amount of sense because they're building the cul-de-sac new. My question is, will or can there be any screening or street trees or any kind of screening whatsoever? Or what are the screening requirements down Hewlett Road? Because these are going to be, right there up on the road, and I just like to consider that for a minute.
So there would not be a screening requirement per se, but we can certainly have a conversation with the road department with respect to street trees there. It's kind of it is an odd situation in that they're not actually building on that road. So I believe the way our ordinance is written, they wouldn't be required to have them, but it's certainly something that we can have a conversation with the road department as to how they would like to do that. Because presumably where you would put them is in the common area that they're dedicating as conservation. So it'd be a good spot to put them, actually.
So just something to chat with the developer and the road department about. It's a pretty barren on that side of the road, and we're going to be looking in the side windows of some of these houses. If we don't, then I think probably the residents too, the future residents of this area would likely be happy to have a couple of trees on that side of the property, especially since it's the area that's the common space that they wouldn't technically get to plant trees in, even if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Trustee Wilson.
Is there a reason that the road commission wanted an offset to the entrance to the high school?
So typically in these situations, you either want to line them up directly or you want to offset them a certain amount based off the speed of the road. In this case, lining them up directly would require the removal of the existing historic house. And so
I see.
The goal was to push it as far away as you could while still maintaining a buildable lot to the north.
Okay. The existing house is going to be kept as a residence, and that is not going to be a saleable lot?
They are keeping the house. They're creating a new lot around the house so they could sell the house.
Oh, they're selling the house. So there's 6 parcels that are going to be sold?
Yes, there was 6 parcels, but 5 new houses.
That's really interesting.
It's a great old house.
I know.
Treasurer DeShay.
You mentioned historic house. Do you know what year it was built or the year the barns were built by chance? My question is, for the follow-up question to that would be, is there any interest in preserving any of the barns or moving them to another location as has been done in the past with new development?
So it's interesting you asked that question. It came up that one of the daughters of the Netzloffs was at the Planning Commission meeting and mentioned that most of the barns were not historic, that they were added after the fact. The house is truly the historic structure on the property.
Anyone else? Clerk Guthrie.
You don't know how old the house is.
I think, but I would like to follow up on that.
Okay, all right. Where's the driveway for the existing house? Did you have another?
So right now, they're going to have to redo it because right now it obviously comes
Right.
out to Hewlett Road.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll reorient it so there'll be a driveway here coming to the front. And they'll probably, I mean, if I'm Jim, I'd probably look into doing some sort of garage on that property, but that's up to the developer to address.
Does the developer, are they selling this property to the developer for the developer to make modifications to the existing house, or?
I don't think they've gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
He has just indicated he's intending to preserve the house.
Okay. Are there, is there an image that shows where there are other trees on this property? Are there any trees that are remaining on this property or not?
Yeah, there's, they'll obviously preserve to the extent they can in the common area because they don't want to get into that anyway. There's not a whole lot of trees on the site. I mean, it was a former farm location. So, but they are staying entirely out of the wetland at the corner there.
Is there any effects from the drainage on the wetland that's right there?
The system hasn't been designed yet, but at this point they have no real need to utilize that wetland for drainage because there is, again, a pipe right here, there's a pipe right here, and there's a pipe right over here. But that is, they need to fully design the system to the drain commissioner's
Satisfaction.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as, how does it get determined whether that's a private street or a public street?
It's an excellent question, and that's something that I think we're going to have a conversation with the road department about. The road department would certainly want it to be private because it's a very small section, and they wouldn't be getting a whole lot of Act 51 dollars for that. I will, until the end of my career, raise concerns about creating private roads in small subdivisions like this because I have seen 20 years down the road when the road collapses and the homeowners don't have the funds to replace it because they didn't realize it's a private road. So we do need to have that conversation still, and that's why the applicant has indicated either private or public on the plans right now.
And then for this road, are they going to name it like Netzloff Road, or how do they? I mean, it's a historic house. I mean, I
will raise that with the applicant. They are definitely. I can assure you, Mr. Jagger is nowhere near that point yet.
I mean, there's a lot of streets in the township named after people that were here, so I'm just,
Yep.
Strong suggestion, idea.
My name's available.
Your name's?
Mr. Schmidt, I think I asked you at some other point about continuing the sidewalk down Hewlett Road. I think the sidewalk stops just north, I guess, of,
yep, I believe it stops
property.
at the property edges. They are showing extension of the sidewalk along this plan, and we will confirm that with them as well.
Okay. And my other question has to do with shielding the backs of these houses, I guess, from the other subdivision. Who's if all of that opens, who's responsible for the tree planting in the open space or not?
It would be the responsibility of the developer at this time. They are proposing to screen along this eastern property line, which actually butts up to open space, if I remember correctly. So that's an interesting spot. They are not proposing to screen up here, presumably because the existing vegetation is probably, they're trying to preserve it. But we will clarify those details in the landscape plan that is required as part of the site plan approval for this.
Okay.
The Netzloff family has been there since 1942.
But
the house might be older.
I'm being told the house is from 1870.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I was going to be off by 6 years.
It's a beautiful home.
Wow.
You can look it up.
Okay, so what you need from us is you needed to prepare us for the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming in our next meeting, and probably at that same meeting, we will make a decision on the PU, plan unit development. Is that why?
We will likely have it on for a decision, yes, after the public hearing.
Okay. I haven't heard any opposition to the plan, and so I think you have our agreement to proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have now come to item 14, which is public comments. Seeing no public, I will assume that there will not be any public comments.
Of the public.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have no comment.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Thank you for that. Then we move to item 15, other matters and board member comments. We have none? Then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, the motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.